All right. Hello and good morning. This is video 941. It is Friday, May 19th, 2023. I notice when I sit down like this, like obviously I'm in my recliner. It's my head. So it's like, when you stand up, when you lay down, like and I'm at like this, everything kind of moves this way. So, well, it's presence. Um, but anyway, um, yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit. I had experience with uh, benign questions, question mark, and unintended consequences. Um, I have my daughter is 16. Well, yeah, 16. Today is pretty much the last day of her sophomore year. She's a junior now, halfway through high school. Um, in the American experience, you know, sophomore year, freshman year is adjustment, high school. Sophomore year is really, I think, a lot of heavy academics. You know, you're not dealing with adjustment, but there's a lot of education. Uh, Junior year is thinking about what you're gonna do afterwards and testing. Your SATs, your whatever. And kind of the senior year usually is the greatest year. It's the apex of the experience. You're on top of the world. You can do anything. You have your whole life ahead of you. Yeah. Where you go from there, who knows? Spin the wheel, take a chance. Uh, but what I find is my daughter being, uh, she'll be 17 in about 4 months. Everywhere she goes, she gets asked, "Are you driving? Did you get your driver's license?" Um, from my ex-wife. Every time my ex-wife sees my daughter, she asks about getting her driver's license. Um, you know, uh, if my daughter meets somebody for the first time and they talk about having kids or growing up, it, are you driving? Uh, the therapist, my daughter's counselor. Um, I'm not going to do her voice, but when are you going to get your license, basically? Okay. And I realize getting your driver's license is a milestone. It's part of growing up, blah 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 blah. But you know, uh, to start driving has some things that go along with it. Um, you got to have a car. If you don't have a car, then you're going to borrow someone else's car. Can that person afford that to not have a car or to borrow? Do you know what I'm saying? Like the timeshare car. Um, Insurance. You gotta be having car insurance. Can the parent soak up the expense of the car insurance, or is car insurance something the child does? You know, as part of learning how to do money and life, and excuse me, a bit of growing up. You know, Usually that car insurance and gas money is the you know kind of the impetus for getting a job. You know, uh, and gas money. I guess we just talked about that, getting a job. So, for someone who is supposedly focused on, um, going into their junior year, eh, your SAT score can get you into a good college or keep you from getting into a good college. Um, my daughter's going to be taking um, hard courses this upcoming year. Um, you know, to try and balance out if she was going to get a part-time job so that she would have the money for gas or to help with car insurance or to help with a car or whatnot. That's going to take away her time and her resources. That's going to decide the next, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 years of her life or where she goes eventually. You know, if your high school GPA sucks and you have a bad SAT score, um, like I said, it complicates factors just so she can have a car, job. Da, da, da. And there's a bit of growing up that happens too. I think when you have to get a job, you know, there is, oh, I'm going to get a part-time job because it's the summer and I have lots of time. But it's a lot different when you have to make, uh, you know, when you're out of school and you got to have money for food and rent and you know working is not an option at that point. It's it's something you do because you got to pay for your bills. You know what I mean? So I guess the benign question is, did you get your driver's license? Is kind of an excitement, but also, something to talk about. Someone got their hair cut. Oh, where did you get your hair? I like your hair. Blah blah. It's something to talk about. But the unintended consequences of that the person who asks, like my psychiatrist, not my psychiatrist, my daughter's therapist, every session, did you get your driver's license yet? You know, the it puts pressure on my daughter that she doesn't necessarily need. It puts pressure on me because I feel guilty that I'm not sitting on wads of cash that I can't just say to my daughter, "Oh, I'll pay for your insurance or I'll buy you a car." Um, so kind of a mixed thing there. Um, it also, I think, too, is a bit of a difference between. I find myself thinking about my parents or my grandparents. The world that my parents and somewhat I grew up in, where within you know a 15 if not 5 minute drive of you, you had grandparents and uncles and aunts. um like everyone was close together, and you might have an uncle or grandparent who knows you and reaches out to the parent and says, hey, so and so, if you need some help, I'll give you some money to help you out. I know so and so is about to start to drive. Or maybe in the same situation, I have an old junker of a car that I was gonna just junk or donate. Would so and so like to have it as their first car? Sort of a bit of networking. The way that things used to be, we were all there was like a nucleus, you know, and we don't have that anymore. You know, um, my parents, my mom is in Utah, my dad is in Florida. Um, my dad's sister is another part of Florida, but way, way away. Um, my sister, who doesn't talk to me, is in, she travels between North Carolina and Colorado. We're all separated and very much self-involved. We don't have that networking that some families do. And, by the same token, it makes me feel here's how transgender comes into it. Because of me being transgender, I lost, my sister abandoned me, excommunicated me because I was transgender. My dad's side of the family, the same thing. You know, I feel this is me guilt on me for the decisions that I made to transition. By doing that, did I exacerbate the situation for my daughter? Did I take away opportunities for her? My aunt, uh, my dad's sister, uh, you know, she might have had a car that, you know what I'm saying? And I realize that's a lot of mind games up here that our minds kind of do, and it's guilt, and it's, what I'm saying, it's a bad thing to try to do to yourself. But there's that, and it kind of dovetails with being married, and you know I definitely am divorced because of transitioning, being transgender. I lost my ex-wife. I mean, you know what I mean? Like we were two income, and um, all of the buffs that come from being married, the tax breaks and everything else, that could have paid for, you know what I'm saying? My ex-wife had a car, I had a car. Um, we could probably make it on one car. You know what I'm saying? Not to give the car to my daughter, but mom and dad have a car they use, and then this really is mom's car, but the daughter uses this car, or the son, or whatnot. So again, transitioning broke that up. It's kind of another opportunity or avenue that could have been. You know, I decreased the chances. I decreased the number of things that could happen in transitioning. So that's kind of how it kind of see the end of the channel here. But it's one of those things. Now, granted, uh, there are cis people who don't have that either, so it's not a given. But just one of those things that again, someone else's benign question. Did you get your driver's license yet? Are you driving? Um, can have these ripple effects, you know, and for me, it definitely brings some pings because my dad definitely used me driving and having access to a car as a way of manipulating me against my mom. So there's kind of some baggage there too. Um, my dad leveraged that and used that as a fear. Well, if you go talk to your mom or if you do something with your mom, I'm not going to pay for this anymore. That's what he did with me, with pretty much with college. Uh, so, you know, again, there's some baggage there for me, um, as far as, it can be used as manipulation and whatnot. I think probably the fairest, if we could kind of go, blow all that away, that negativity, and to sit down and say, well, you know, I would like to, if I had the opportunity to give you a car, I would do that. And I definitely have the opportunity to share with you. Um, but let's talk about some things to think about. You know, your focus of school. Kind of this is a big year for you. You let's talk about. You're going to need gas money. it takes insurance, you know. Even if I was to say, yeah, I work from home, you can take the car and drive it to school and back. Um, and all of this is not to say no. It's not to say no. It's not to say no. It's not to be manipulative. It's not to, it's not a means of control, but just to say there's some things to think about. And as part of growing older, and it might be time to sit down with a piece of paper and kind of think about your future a little bit. And in a way, you know, that is sort of the end of childhood. You know what I mean? That's the end of the, aha, I can do whatever I want, you know. And that's something that I don't want to force on my daughter. I don't want to end her childhood. You know what I mean? It's up to her. It's a her decision. It's not a me decision. I want to give her the opportunity if that's what she wants to do, but I'm not going to push her towards it. My dad definitely um, pushed me, you know, uh, pushed me, manipulated me, mentally abused me, um, withheld affection. I mean, I don't want to do that to my daughter. So I think it's okay. I think it's possible to be uh, just part of, you know, these are some things to kind of think about, and here are some different options you might have, and maybe think about it. We can talk about it and involve her in the discussion, you know, because it's her life, you know, and I definitely don't want to push her. I don't want to push her. I'm not going to make her go to college. I'm not going to make her join the military. Um, these are decisions that I want her to make on her own. And she may very well say, I don't need that stress in my life. Um, you know what I mean? Now, truth be told, there is within walking distance, uh, you know, within 5 to 10 minutes walking distance. Okay, she doesn't have to cross a major highway or whatnot. We have a Walgreens, we have a Dairy Queen, we have a Dollar Tree, we have a Papa Murphy's, all within, you know, 500 yards of where we live, um, that she could conceivably get a job at, you know, that doesn't involve a car, that will give her, she could get her feet wet maybe this summer if she wants to. So that's kind of I guess, my approach to kind of what I want to see happen. But I'm definitely tired of my ex-wife because it's every time, you know. When's Katie gonna get her driver's license? I don't know. Ask her. You like I said again, it's one of those things. I have obviously I have my own guilt and frustration, my experience with my parents, and I don't want my daughter to go through that. It's eh, I wish, and this really doesn't really have much to do with being transgender, but you know, there's such a push when you're 18, when at high school, there's such a push to couple high school. with college. There's such a, push to connect them and pull you right along. And I really think the world has changed. You know, you can, um, you could get a certificate rather than a diploma. You can get a certificate in something like you can get a Microsoft certificate and work with software and not go into debt. Um, my company that I work for, Humana, um, they pay for college. You know, if I was to do what I'm doing now without $47,000 of debt, imagine that I still have. You could at a high school what I do now, and Humana will pay for college. You know what I'm saying? So the idea that you have to route, you know, you have to do this thing, I don't necessarily think that's the way the world works anymore. And it's I would love, there's definitely something to the college experience of going towards to a college town, for lack of a better word, and being engrossed and living on campus and uh, living in the dorms and going to football games. And I mean, like I said, I don't want to deny my daughter that experience, but it's not something she has to do right now if she doesn't want to. And I wish for myself, transgender aside, that I had had time to really think about what I wanted to do instead of being pushed into college and taking on so much debt that I don't need. You know, I have a college degree I don't use. You know, uh, and debt. You know what I mean? Uh, Definitely, there's an age. I think when our brains are malleable enough that we can learn and do, but I don't think we have to push. You know what I mean? But it's in our vernacular. It's in our we just assume, oh, what college are you gonna go to? What do you know what I mean? Like high school graduates. And I think it's perfectly acceptable to not know what you want to do and maybe try a couple different things and see if that's something you want to do. You know, volunteer. Something else that I didn't do that I wish I did do because my dad wouldn't let me. But um, Georgia Tech had a co-op program where I could have um, gone to school for a semester and then work at McDonnell Douglas. Work at an engine. I was an aerospace engineer. I hadn't said that yet. Um, I could have worked at McDonnell Douglas for 6 months and actually get my feet wet. And you know what I mean? I would be low person on the totem pole, but I would learn it from the ground floor. And then I would go back to school. And it would have kept me from getting burnt out. But the co op pays for your college. Like I said, why? Why did I do what I did? My dad was pushing me, and I didn't know any better. My dad wanted me to be an Air Force officer, and that's where I was going. That's what I did, and I have nothing to show for it. So, on that note, I will shut up and wish you the best of luck in all that you do. And man, what a world! What a world! What a world! What a world! You ruined my beautiful wickedness. Till next time. Bye bye.